This is the Authority Company Podcast, conversations with leaders who are designing our future. Hola, I'm Pardavila. My guest today is Dr. Shaoqing Sun. Dr. Sun is the founder and chief geoscientist of C&C Reservoirs, with more than 30 years of experience helping global energy companies make smarter decisions. His book, From Burnout to Bliss, tells a story behind the results. It traces a path from ego-driven ambition to burnout, family strain, and a personal shift toward clarity and purpose. This conversation explores what happens when winning stops delivering fulfillment and what real leadership looks like on the other side. Shaoqing, welcome to the show. How are you?
Yeah, I feel great. Thank you for having me here.
I'm glad that you feel great and super excited to talk to you about the book. And one of the things that's I always love about reading business books like this that take place in another country is just how different things are in the other parts of the world. I think as Western culture, we're like, the world revolves around us. Everyone works 9 to 5 and everyone has everyone has weekends off. And so I know in different cultures, it's especially in Asian cultures, vastly different. And one of the things that what struck me was you learn from an early age about overworking and outworking other people. Tell me that idea of outworking as a mode for not only success, but almost survival.
Yeah, I think their overdrive and then working longer hours is part of the Chinese culture I was brought up with. So as you know, so the Chinese culture, the Chinese people in old days is really facing a lot of life challenge. So they're really, once they're given opportunity, so they're really hardworking and driven people. So I'm part of that blood.
And one of the things that I found interesting in the book is that you worked your ass off so much that by the age of 12, you were making more money than your father. Tell me about that.
My dad did me a great favor by not performing his duty when I was little, because I saw the family struggle. And then if my dad did not perform his duty properly, my mom had to do all the job on his behalf. So I did not want my mom to suffer, to have burnout. So I stepped into my dad's role by doing whatever I can at that age to both homework, housework, and also earn money. So how do I earn money? So again, in the countryside, you earn money by whatever opportunity is available, whatever people demanding in the markets. So that opportunity planted the seed for me later to run my own business.
Tell me about some of those jobs as a 12-year-old, because, as you know, here in the States, Shaoqing, we have labor laws and, children can't work until maybe 16 or so. What were you doing at 12 to earn money?
Yeah, so at that time I have to balance everything. So I have to go to school during the daytime, and also my mom and dad both work. I have to take care of my two sisters, and then literally cooking, cleaning, so the whole housework. And also on top of that, I had to earn money. So what I do is, so one is rains. So that's the time I had the best opportunity to earn money. Because when it rains, everybody sleep in the house. So I went to the mountains. And then also I see the good opportunity for the mushroom, for the wood fungus to grow when it rains. So everybody's all adults, they had the rest, asleep. And then I'm the only person who woke up 2 o'clock in the morning and went to the mountains and make sure I went there first before somebody else came after.
Hey, clear that up for me, Shaoqing. What were you doing in the mountains?
Yeah, I collected the wood fungus. So wood
Oh, okay.
fungus, yeah, wood fungus is quite expensive and is really on high demand by the city people. So they love to eat wood fungus. And then also the mushroom. So wood fungus, mushroom, also the wild vegetables. The Japanese love the wild vegetable even today. So I collect all this when it rains. Because when it rains, the wild vegetable grow fast. Wood fungus, mushroom, they all grow fast. But again, it's exactly when it rains, people lazy and I have a rest at home.
Wow, that sounds like a lot for sure. I'm curious because as Americans, we most of the any kind of coverage of China, it's these like mega cities with like millions and millions of people in it. But you grew up in a small Chinese village. Tell me how explain to me how that works. Like, what's a small Chinese village look like?
Yeah, a small Chinese village. So I'm talking about the 50 years ago. So small Chinese village. There was about 100 households, 100.
Okay.
And then each household had average about 6, 7 people. So we're talking about less than 1,000 people in that village. So we know everyone knows each other. Everyone knows what's going on in the family. So therefore, if you want to have a good reputation in a village, you have to work harder, have good integrity, and so that makes sure your neighbor like you, everyone knows you. So when you grow up, and then so you can get married because it's good family, it's credible family, so you can have a wife. If not, if you do anything naughty, have a bad reputation, and everybody stay away from you, and then later on you're facing all kind of challenge and struggle.
And so for you to become successful, you had to leave that small village. What was that like? And tell me about like in terms of like the village, was it like were you an outlier that you would go and leave, go to the big city, go pursue an academic pursuit? Tell me about like what you were like in relation to the town. Was it normal what you were doing to step away from the town to go to the bigger cities and pursue education?
Yeah, I think there at that time, obviously, my ambition or my family's ambition was not that big. So they think the best thing they could foresee is I got out of the village because life is so challenging, it's so boring, so hard. So really, my single objective is to, if I don't have a chance to get out of the village, I want to be the best in the village. I want to be the most respectful, most credible, most hardworking, and a rich person in the village. And then, all on top of that, if I had opportunity, I would do something else. Instead of doing all the hard labor work, I want I want to do something mental, which become a teacher or go to the city. So really, you do it step by step. You don't have a big picture to start with, because if you do, that is crazy picture because nobody believe you. I'm sure you will not believe it yourself. So only just step, you just go a step, you see it, you see the roof, and then go next step. Just like you climb up the highest mountain, the Himalayan mountains, right? So that's 8,000 meters. It's just too high goal. You can't. It just scare you. It just scare you to death, right? You climb little by little, step by step. So that's how it works in my life.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't like you make this big, bold move. You were taking baby steps
Yeah, yeah,
to
baby
to
step.
progress.
Yeah. So the first step is you have to be super smart. You have to work harder. You have to make sure you're top academically. So I was top. So that I'm the outlier in the village. So my academic is far, far, far ahead of next layer. I'm just far ahead of everybody else academically.
That's amazing. That's so great. And then obviously the next step was to become an entrepreneur. You built C&C Reservoirs. And before we get to the point of you hitting the wall and the sort of the inspiration for the book, tell me about that entrepreneurial journey for you, like going building something from scratch and what that took for you. And first, give a little plug. What were you doing with C&C Reservoirs?
So number one is before I started CNC, I worked for somebody else. I worked for somebody else for 4 years in order to get a British passport, a British
Mm.
permanent residence. So I cannot start anything unless I became a British permanent resident. So I have to work for somebody else for 4 years. So during that 4 years, I changed job 3 times. Because for me, working for anybody, actually, if I was British, was born British, I would start my business from day one. So I thought it was completely waste my time after 3 months. So after 3 months, I already see my entire life for working for somebody else. So I've already concluded working for somebody else is not the optimal solution for my life. but I have to in order to get a permanent residence. But in order to really satisfy my my curiosity, my drive, I changed jobs 3 times. So every time I fired my boss, not other way around. So when I started C&C, it's just a kind of coincidence, right? So my passion is really the big picture. So as a scientist, there are two types of scientists. One scientist is you study single subject in every minute detail, right? You become expert in that single subject, the best in the world. Another one is you have a holistic approach. You want to resolve problem at a higher level, on a strategic level, and you want to see you solve one problem, you move on. You solve another problem, you move on. So again, so the later choice better suits me. So I never really spend a lot of time studying one subject in many details. I love to understand the big picture. So in science, in geoscience, which is the global tectonics, global basin, global reservoirs, because whatever boundary you see today is a country boundary, is a political boundary. But in the geological sense, as no boundary, the country boundary are irrelevant. So that fascinated me, because if you go to Middle East, the whole Middle East is one big plate. So geology is about the whole massive Caribbean platform, not Iran, not Iraq, not Saudi Arabia. This is just purely artificial political boundary. So quite often people study geology based on the political boundary. So you just never get a picture. So that fascinated me. So I always had a dream in my academic when I'm doing my PhD. I want to understand the whole Earth, the whole globe, understand the reservoir in the basin plate, a global scale. So I had that dream. And then one of the largest oil company in US, Chevron, they shared the dream. So they started the project based on that theme, really fit my dream. And somehow, as a natural connection there, whatever behind that, I did not have a proper understanding until today. Today, passion connect the dots. Because my passion to science, to creativity, to invention. So that bridge make the connection between me and the Chevron. So
Wow.
I love publishing papers. I love sharing. The creative ideas. So Chevron project manager noticed my name and approached me. So brought me to Chevron project. So that's how the whole thing started. So after a few years with Chevron, and they decided to farm out that project to a third party because they believe if they keep project to themselves, by themselves, they have very limited resources, limited manpower, limited ideas. If they farm it out to a third party, that way you're going to draw a global contribution, both in terms of funding, the ideas, the coverage. So this is perfect marriage.
So you became that third party.
I became the third party after long struggle, after a lot of kind of a challenge. Somehow it's really low probability event, and it happened. And that again because of my passion, because of my commitments. So really pretty low probability event because Chevron legal team developed to give it to a large, well-established company so they can have assurance that they is reliable. If they farm out to somebody like Qing, A is a Chinese name, B is one man's band. There's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of insecurity there. So it is very, very small probability event and it happened.
Wow, amazing! What a story, and it and you said commitment, but in the book I mean I think you even used the word like it was obsessive, like for you to become successful. And I wonder, with the Chinese culture, Asian cultures, again going back to Western culture thing, we always think of like there's almost like the stereotypical robotic worker, Asian worker that's going to work, 12 hours a day, not complain, do their thing, and that's it. But we all know that for many people, they're not robots. They're human and they suffer burnout just as much as they do in Western culture. When did you realize that this drive, you use commitment in the book, you talk about obsessiveness. When did you realize this is actually hurting you, not helping you?
Okay, that's a very good question. Yeah, I think to me, when I say I made commitments, and then everyone can see it, the customer can see, everyone can see it. Usually, I give my life to what I pursue. So people are really deeply moved by my passion, my drive, my commitment. So because I give my life to whatever I pursue, so that you can tell you, so I'm my business. So literally, and that commitment is a kind of both have negative and positive effect. The positive effect is the partners, employees, the colleagues, the customer can see it. So they trust you, they give you business. But because for me, integrity is everything else. So integrity, my reputation, and then I always want to over deliver. I always want to exceed a customer's expectation. So how do we achieve it? By working hard, by working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? Again, because I'm in a way it's kind of perfectionist. So at that stage, I do not really trust other people as much as I do today. So I have to do all the work by myself. I don't want to give the work to somebody else who is turned out to be a second class quality, and then the customer complain. So I do everything by myself, do technical work, marketing, solving problems, literally one man doing probably 5 people's job. So I think given that kind of nature of overload, the challenge, you can imagine the physical challenge, right? After 10 years, you just become physically collapse, right? All kind of illness, right? And then most importantly, after that big legal fight by the largest organization, professional organization in the world, I thought that's it. That's the end of my professional career. So my struggle, I think the physical struggle is not as severe as the mental struggle. Because physical struggle, you can always recover. You have a rest, you can recover. The mental struggle, like you're just not dead. It's very difficult to recover because I was constantly battling against myself. So if I lost my business, what my life would be like? What else I could do? So to me, losing the business is the same way as losing my life. Really depressed, hopeless, empty, struggle. So really, it took me almost 10 years to recover from that deadly blow.
And one of the things you write about this, you have this great line in the book, is that ego burns hot and fast. Uh, what was the first sign? I mean, you talked about this 10-year struggle you had, but what was the first sign where you were like, I got to do something about it. I can't ignore this?
Yeah, it is an excellent question. Yeah, so the first sign is the physical part. So the first physical part is I went to hospital and I had the first time when I was in 40s, had the first proper physical checkout examination. And then, I mean, I'm when I was in the 40s, it's surprising to see all their results is not very encouraging. And doctor said, look, you have to slow down, otherwise you will get into serious trouble. And I had this kind of disc problems, herniated disc. I can't walk. I would lie in bed for 3 months, and overweight, and then relationship, family challenge. But all this are rather easy to fix. You just slow down. So I pick up the golf. I do regular exercise. I have a proper diet. So all this can be fixed. But mental path, mental collapse, took me literally 10 years to recover. So during that 10 years, I read all the business books. I read all textbooks about business, about their burnout, about all this. I do learn some piecemeal, step-by-step, logical approach, conventional approach, and it helped very short while, a little bit, but again, after a few months, and then back to normal, and then worried, concerned, struggling. So I have to find a permanent solution, which it took me 10 years to find that permanent solution, which is a total dissolving ego and then transformation.
Wow. And I want to get to that, but first I want to talk about some of these troubling times because one thing is to be this obsessive entrepreneur and be a single guy. You're not damaging other people. You're basically just damaging yourself. But you have a family, and there's a story in the book that is almost uncomfortable to read, and it's about a ski trip that you took with your son. Uh, and I'm telling you, it's one of those things where like I don't know if I would have shared that story in the book. So would you mind just giving us a little backstory in terms of that ski trip with your son and what it meant?
Yeah, and it is pretty painful relationship between me and my family, my son. So my son already something like 40 years old, and before that, I had never had a proper holiday with him because of the nature of the challenge overdrive. The first time I took him to a ski trip, and then on the way to the airport, he lost his passport. I was already mad, and I always, my very nature, whatever happened, I tried to blame somebody else, and also I shouted at him. And then that holiday was not good at start. And then once we got on the mountains, and you can imagine somebody is 40 years old, the first time on the Vale, big mountains, really scary mountains. And I was just very, very mad with him because I said, look, you're already 40 years old. You should stand up by yourself. And then this is because for me it's easy. I've been learning skiing for over 10 years. I was expecting him to perform as good as I am. I said, look, I don't want to waste my time. It's the first time you have to work together. I'm expecting you to we ski together. And then obviously he was struggling. He was not very good, very awkward. I was just shouting, yelling at him. After half a day, I said, look, I've done enough. I want to enjoy myself. And then you try to ski down the slope. I'm going to wait for you at the bottom at the end of the day. And he did not turn up. He did not call me. And then, God, I was so mad. We had really fight, both physical, mental, emotional. You can imagine that turned out into a pretty disaster. And then for me, I thought, God, this was a waste of my time. And then for my son, is what a dad you are. You never take any spend any vacation with me, and the first time you're so harsh on me. You can see that pain is there, is real.
Mm. Is that when you kind of realize the sort of the actual damage you were inflicting on your family and your kids? Was that what like one of the major parts where you were like, shit, I got to do something about this?
Yeah, exactly. This is the first part awaken me in terms of paying attention to their family, to the relationship, and then obviously the physical part, and then the mental part. Mental part, I was not very happy. I lost my identity. I feel empty. I lost direction. I felt life has no purpose, no meaning. So you can see, put all this together. For me, is kind of life was not worth living. So either I have only two choices: either I die, or I totally transform myself. So I thought, really 40s, in my 40s, I don't want to die. I want to give it the best shot. I want to have another try. So that again, once I have that idea, and then this kind of spirituality stuff coming to my life, if in four different directions, all it happened within the 6 months time window.
Wow. I want to also double click on your work life because obviously your home life is not looking like Leave It to Beaver, but also your work life. You're actually pretty angry with your employees, and you talk about firing employees who gave you honest feedback. Um, what was going on there? Was it the same thing with your son where it was just like there was so much anger bubbling up in you that you couldn't hear what anyone else was saying?
Yeah, that's exactly the answer because actually it is my the pattern. I call it ego. I'm just so egocentric, and I have such a high standard. And whoever does not conform to my standard, and I have to react in the same way, just angry, blame, and then criticize, and then make decision, which is either shouting, yelling, or fire you. So in the case with a colleague, one of the loyal colleague, hard is working, loyal. We were friends, and today still work for C&C. And he's the person who I got mad with him most. And my closest friends work the hardest. Obviously, because I'm a perfectionist, I have a high standard, and you have to conform to my standards. Which in reality, it never happened that way. So whenever he perform, deliver, do work below my standard or did not meet my expectation, I just got mad and shouted at him using the harshest language you can imagine. And another case, which is another colleague joined the company, and then shared observation, which in a way, if today she shared the observation, I will be grateful. I have some observation may not be relevant, may not be urgent to address, but overall, and the employee is doing something for the better of the company, and then I should be grateful. But at that time, 20 years ago, I was just so mad. I said, look, your job is to really, you can only comment on the technical part. You're not supposed to make any comments on things irrelevant to your job. So she commented on the website, in the environment, everything. I said, look, this is none of your business. So I just fire her straight away.
Wow. And then you kind of went on your spiritual journey that took about 10 years. And I wonder, while you were going through, because you talk about how like the physical part, you went to the doctor, they probably gave you some medication, you fixed that. But the mental part took you 10 years. What was finally the breakthrough for you where, it was almost like that doctor's visit where, the doctor gave you prescriptions, told you to go get some sleep. What was the sort of mental version or spiritual version of that finally broke that cycle?
Yeah, but actually, I was a kind of top-notch scientist to start with. So I was an atheist. So I was strongly against the concept of God or anything I cannot see, I cannot feel, I cannot touch, I cannot figure out logically, mentally. So I never thought about pursuing something beyond science. So I was chasing success one way or another. So that 10 years, I was in the process chasing another ghost. Okay. So I felt my own company after legal battle, I thought I lost it. So maybe I could do something else. So in that 10 years, I was constantly keeping myself busy, chasing many goals. Okay? Every time I chase the goals, it turned out to be a disaster. So it's one disaster followed to another disaster. And then I want to be somebody else. I thought, God, I could be a politician. Or I could become a CEO of a big company. Or I could become an advisor for the top government officials. Or I could become a diplomat. So I was admiring all these different roles, different positions, which naturally does not belong to me. I probably never had the talent, never had experience. It's just pure fantasy to resolve the problem in a superficial way. So after 10 years, that's it. So I've drawn my own conclusion. So I hit in an invisible wall. Nothing worked. And at that point, I thought almost like give up my life. I did not see any solution at all because I've tried everything. I tried all textbook. I have attended business class. I've attended investment class. I lost a fortune by being an investor. I associated myself with politician. I've exhausted all the channel for the 10 years. So and nothing works. It's getting worse. So at the point, every day I wake up in the morning, I was really struggling how I'm going to spend today, what I'm going to do. So my conclusion was nothing matters, nothing is significant, nothing will make me happy. So for me, it's really struggling. So life is be like life and death. It's no difference for me. So and then suddenly things happened. That's 4 unrelated events all hit me all come to my life in a very kind of, although unrelated, but at deeper level, they're all related. So all designed to wake me up, point me to a different direction, totally different direction, spirituality, which is a concept I've never heard of, spirituality. But when that happened, I thought, that's it. That's the answer. So I see the light in the darkness. You know, whenever you have darkness, you need the light. So I was having the darkness for 10 years. Now the spirituality, that word, is the light. Although it's gleam of light, it's dim light. But I see that light will save my life, will save everything. So I dived straight into spirituality for 3 years, like a PhD thesis.
And so it's funny because the obsessiveness that drove your business career is that you use that same obsessiveness to sort of embrace spirituality. And you write in the book about, you describe consciousness as the master and ego as the servant. During that 3 years of this obsessiveness, when did the actual, the switch flip that you were like, oh, it's been me the whole time?
Yeah, it is excellent question. I think that's exactly the same me, the same overdrive, the same passion from science, from business to spirituality. It's exactly the same person. Okay, I got super excited, super passionate about it as a scientist because I love research, I love reading papers. So my first thing is I have to figure out the logic. So what is the relationship between science and spirituality? What is the relation between science and God? How the mind works? And so I dive deep, and where the human come from? Where are we going? So I read about a few hundred books. So during that 3 years, it's really intensive. I spend probably more than 12 hours a day, very intensive. And then layer by layer, book by book, from different angles. So philosophy, spirituality, religion. I read all religious books. I love read the biography of Buddha, Tao, and then there Jesus. I love the philosophy, the Darwin theory, where the human come from. I love read books about the neural network, how the brain work, how the mind work, neuroscience, neuroplastic. I love reading biology, microbiology, and quantum physics. God, you can see all these topics. It's just something very, very new. I got super excited. I want to put together a jigsaw puzzle and I make it simple. Because otherwise we get lost in one single book very easy, right? You can get lost in, oh, that book is very good. And you try another book, oh, that book is very, very good. You only have a limited amount of, you can't immerse yourself to all the 100 books, right? You have to really condense them, integrate them, make this few hundred books into 2 page. So that was my objective. So complete everything and then synthesize and summarize, integrate them, make them to be a practical, repeatable, simple step. People can learn, apply that into your life. So that's exactly what I have achieved. After a few hundred books, 3 years, I condensed everything into 2 words, right? So everything is about, as a human, right? As a human, we have only 2 elements, and they work against each other. And then all life is about your ego and consciousness. So if you have an ego, you don't have consciousness. If you have consciousness, the consciousness will dissolve ego. So the next question is, well, everything is simple. So what is the consciousness? What is the ego? Right? So, and I have to read all books. The ego is very simple. Ego is your mental concept. The mental construct is your inner dialogue, right? It's a role you play. The ego is not real. It really is your interpretation about yourself. That's ego. And then the consciousness. So consciousness actually is a bridge between science and the spirituality. So really consciousness, if you can describe in science, at quantum level, is quantum physics. And consciousness, that's everything who we are. If you look at the ultimate reality from all the books, again, at that time, still everything is at the knowledge level, conceptual level. So what I can get from all the books, from all the texts, everything I can find from the web. So consciousness is the ultimate reality of existence. So everything starts from consciousness. So we're just part of this consciousness. So that's where the creativity or intelligence come from. So really come down to consciousness. I mean, you can find many books by the top-notch physicists talking about this consciousness. So really, everything we have is consciousness and then the ego. So next question is, how I'm going to dissolve ego? Because if you dissolve ego, all problem will be gone. And the true fulfillment will just come out, emerge naturally. Right? It sounds brilliant, sounds very, very good idea. But how is it going to happen? Because if that does not happen, everything is concept. No matter how beautiful the idea, the concept, they're just nonetheless, they're just concept. You have to turn the concept into reality. Make sure you're living a conscious life, right? You're living a life. Consciousness is a master, the observer. Ego is the servant. So really, once ego is gone, I turn into Buddha. Because Buddha, if you look at Buddha as another religion or another philosophy, so Buddha means egoless, right? Another philosopher, Chinese philosopher with Taoism, the same age as Buddha. So Tao means if you become egoless, and then you can do everything. Everything is possible. So really, so at that, I was so fascinated because I studied Taoism, and that Taoism say, look, if you're do things without ego, anything you can imagine will happen. Do everything naturally. And then the Buddha said, once you become egoless, your life will become so peaceful, right? And it will be so calm, so peaceful, so joyful. You're not going to have any worry, any concern, any anxiety, any burnout. What a beautiful state of being. I love to be in the Buddha situation. I love to be in Taoism. Because doing business, if you're in both situations, there's nothing you cannot achieve. What a brilliant concept. I was so fascinated, so dive deep into how to do it. And now what I found out is, okay, very, very simple. The step, you can do it. I can do it. Anybody can do it, right? All is needed is, I've done all heavy lifting. I've done all research. I've suffered enough. All I need is for you to read the book. Being equally fascinated, you want to do it, right? All we need is you want to do it. Well, if that transforms your life, right? Instead of piecemeal logical approach for illness, if you can totally transform your life using this idea, I mean, you're going to have a completely different quality life, balanced life, and when you do business like today, I'm only spending probably 5 hours a day, probably 3 days a week, okay? I can achieve something 100 times more than I used to. Because running business is just like a game. It's effortless. Whatever thing you want to do, the creativity, the idea, the creativity, the intelligence, and then whatever you want to see it just manifests naturally. Because the whole universe works together for you, right? If you have idea, that idea is from the center of yourself without ego. Quite often, when you try to achieve something with ego, nobody help you. The universe will not help you. Because what you're trying to do is like an animal. So if you see some animals' worlds, that's where we call them collective consciousness. So the very nature of collective consciousness is to serve the individual to evolve, to get better. So by the same token, so we have, as a human, we have collective consciousness. But that collective consciousness, like we are driving with a GPS, right? GPS can tell you where to go, where's the traffic. If you do everything by reading the map, right? You can get where you are, but it's going to hell a lot of work, right? It's just constant trouble, and you never know where you're going to end up with. I mean, you can have a different version of map, but nonetheless, they're map. By the same token, we as a human, so if we work as in isolation, as an individual, ego-driven, right? So like you're driving with a map, you can have a different map, but in the end, you're not going to get the definition as fast as you're using GPS. So that collective consciousness is GPS. That GPS is designed to work for us, right? All we need is Wi-Fi, right? So that consciousness is Wi-Fi. That consciousness connects us to the higher intelligence. right? So if you don't have an ego, that means whatever you pursue is for somebody else. It's for bigger purpose, right? If you don't have ego, whatever project, whatever relation, whatever move you want to have nothing to do with you. It's for the whole human species. So then no wonder the whole universe conspire to work for you. So again, for C&C, I don't regard C&C as my company. I don't feel like I own it. I don't own it, right? It is a company belong to universe, belong to the world, belong to the industry, belong to the C&C colleagues, belong to everybody except me.
Wow, that's great. And you know, it's funny. So my original mentor back in the day, I started working with him when he was much later in his career, and I would hear these stories of what an absolute maniac he was. Maybe some of it driven by addiction or you know, some sort of abuse of alcohol or drugs. But like the man I knew was completely different to the stories I would hear. Like he was more chill, more docile. He would listen to people. I mean, he was still a little nutty, but he was completely different. And the reason I bring that up is, do people recognize you as the same person from 20 years ago? Like, or do you not recognize yourself from where you were? Like when you wrote about these stories and you relive these stories of, you know, you being mean to your employees during Christmas or experiences with your family, like, do you sometimes take a step back and be like, who was that person?
Yeah, it is a very good question. Yeah, I think the spiritual journey is a kind of inward journey. It's a journey, inner journey about yourself, and you don't tell other people. So even as of today, if people know me today and know me 20 years ago, they say, God, Xing is a completely different person. Oh gosh, what happened to him? So in their mind, maybe they think it's just natural aging, natural evolution. When you age, you stop worrying about things. You become nicer to other people. So to them, they explain their observation in a very conventional, logical way. I never talk about my inner journey with anybody. It's just purely private. So I practice privately. I can see my inner experience have been transformed dramatically because, like in the book, when I define success, so success to me is not about your performance, it's not about your wealth, it's not about your reputation, your how well known you are. It's about your inner experience. So everything is about, do you feel happy? Do you feel fulfilled? Do you feel peaceful? So that's my definition of success. So I really don't care how you think of me, whether you prove it or not. I just have zero impact. So all I care is how I feel. So really today I feel very calm, peaceful, totally fulfilled. Life for me is perfect. I give it 100 marks of my life. I take care of my family, my kids, my friends. So people all think Jing is become very nice person. And also, he no longer works that hard. He's no longer that driven. And he's very calm, always give credit to the team, and always become laughable, always laugh. And then just so relaxed working with him. And then whatever problem we present to him, he always come back with a very crystal clear, simple solution. So in the end, the whole company is working like a game. It's really with C&C Reservoir, we're not like a kind of competitive environment, business like a relationship. So we're like a family.
It's funny how you describe the idea that people see you now as, oh, he's just older and he's chilled out, but they don't realize the amount of work you put into it. It's almost like when you see people undergo physical transformations, like, oh, look, that person lost X amount of pounds. They look great. And not even like thinking about, man, that required a lot of work and intentionality. So, what do you say to people that maybe they are coming at a crossroads in your life, at their life, where they were similar to you, where it was all work all the time, the family was second or third down the line of priorities, and they're like, I don't know if I can change because if I change, I could lose the business, I could lose success, I could lose the cars, I could lose the house, I could lose the boats. What do you say to people who want to change, but they worry that it will affect their everyday work life?
Yeah, it is a very good question. I think there's so much misconcept about the spirituality, and most people are skeptical about it. So when I share my story, there's to start with, they're just either skeptical or think that is something just belong to you. That have nothing to do with me. So really, I think the biggest challenge is really the people's mind are so rigid, um, so fragmented, and then with ego, using ego to resolve problem, ego related issues. So quite people still they can't get out of ego. They can't get out the uh, trapment, mental trapped by ego. They just can't get out. They can't figure out intellectually. They can't figure out emotionally. So they just skeptical. So really, the biggest enemy is your decision to get out of the trap and then to try to do something different. So really, the sole purpose of my book is to achieve helping people point out this is real. It's not fantasy. It's not a mental concept. It's not another intelligence, not a concept. It is real. Because when I started, I'm just like you, like your next door neighbor. I'm atheist, scientist, businessman. And then through the 10 years, all this struggling, research, everything, I don't want you to go through the same route because it's just too much work. I've done all heavy lifting. All you need to do is just 1%. I've done 99%. I've suffered enough. I've done enough research. I've discovered something real, which I'm practicing even today, every day. As you can see, it's changing. Because spirituality is not about you achieve your objective and that's it. No, it's a lifelong practice, lifelong commitment, and you're going to see improvement every day.
Wow. And you can read all about it in From Burnout to Bliss, Dissolve Your Ego, Fuel Your Success, Find True Fulfillment. He is Dr. Shaoqing Sun. Doc, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's my pleasure. I really enjoyed talking with you, Joe. I hope my work will be of great value, help to other people who share the similar challenge and end up in a similar situation. Thank you so much.
And that's going to do it for this episode. If you want to find out more information about Dr. Sun and our other amazing authors, go to theauthoritycompany.com.